Good day, mates. Welcome back to Unpopular Aussie Opinions, where we dive headfirst into the conversations that make the nation uncomfortable, the ones that challenge the myths we hold dear in our great game of Australian football. I'm your host, and today, we are facing something that's shaken the footy world to its core. Late last night, on October 12, 2025, in the quiet suburbs of Perth, Ben Cousins, the once unstoppable Brownlow medalist, the king of the midfield for the West Coast Eagles, was found unresponsive in his home. Paramedics rushed to the scene, but it was too late. Preliminary reports from Western Australian police indicate a drug overdose as the cause. Ben Cousins, at just 46 years old, is gone. Now, before we unpack this, let's take a breath. This isn't just another tabloid headline. It's a gut punch to every punter who's ever cheered for the Eagles, every kid who dreamed of lacing up the boots like Benny did. But here's the thing, and this is why you're here on Unpopular Aussie Opinions. We can't sugarcoat it. We can't pretend this was some isolated tragedy. Ben's death is the starkest reminder yet of how our beloved AFL, for all its glamour and glory, has a dark underbelly that's been festering for decades. And today, I'm going to say what no one else will. The league, the clubs, and even as fans have blood on our hands for turning a blind eye to the drug culture that's claimed another legend. Let me paint the picture of the man we lost. Ben Cousins burst onto the scene in 1996, a fresh-faced kid from the sandgropers of Western Australia, drafted straight out of school. By 2006, he'd captained the Eagles to their third premiership, racking up 220 games, 6 All-Australian selections, and that elusive Brownlow in 2005. He was poetry in motion on the field, evasive, explosive, with a footy brain that could read the play like a book. I remember watching that 2006 Grand Final replay last Anzac Day, seeing him weave through the pack like a ghost. It was magic. Pure Aussie magic. But off the field? That's where the cracks started showing, and mates, they were there from the jump. Ben's troubles with drugs weren't a secret. They were splashed across every front page from 2007 onwards. That infamous white powder incident in a King's Cross hotel room, the one that got him suspended for 12 weeks. Then the associations with Perth's underworld, the shootings, the stabbings in the nightclub shadows that had the coppers circling like hawks. By October 2007, the Eagles had no choice but to sack him, and the AFL slapped on a 1-year ban. He bounced to Richmond, played out his days there, but the demons followed. Rehab stints, court appearances, a 12-month stretch in 2017 for stalking and breaching restraining orders, domestic violence allegations that tore at the heartstrings. And don't get me started on the loss of his mate, Chris Mainwaring, another Eagle great who succumbed to a cocaine overdose in 2007. Ben was the last to see him alive, delivering food and support that night. How do you carry that weight? How does a man rebuild? Yet, rebuild he did, or so we thought. In 2023, after clawing his way through the darkness, Ben joined 7 News in Perth as a sports reporter. Reading the morning bulletins with that trademark grin, he looked like he'd turned the corner. Then, in 2024, he stepped onto the dance floor for Dancing with the Stars Australia, Series 21, no less. Sure, he was the fifth out, but there he was, twirling under the lights, showing vulnerability in a way footy blokes rarely do. And by February 2025, he was co-hosting the breakfast slot on the hit network, Pete and Kimber with Ben Cousins. The network rebranded around him, for goodness sake. He was interviewing callers, cracking jokes about the Eagles' latest draft picks, sounding like the old Benny. Last month, he even popped up on Fox Footy, dissecting the grand final preview with that sharp insight we all missed. It felt like redemption. A fairy tale ending for a battler. But last night shattered that illusion. Found alone in his home, no note, no warning. Just the silence after the storm. Toxicology reports are pending, but sources close to the investigation, and let's be clear, this is fresh off the wire, point to a relapse. Ice, perhaps, or something stronger. The kind of poison that's whispered about in the change rooms but never shouted from the rooftops. Ben's family released a statement this morning. Our hearts are broken. Ben was a loving father, a devoted son, and a fighter to the end. Please respect our privacy as we grieve. His ex-partner, May Trinidad, who stood by him through the worst, echoed that pain on social media. You were my everything. Rest now, warrior. The AFL Commissioner, Andrew Dillon, called it a profound loss for the entire football community. Flags at Optus Stadium are at half-mast, and tributes are pouring in from Geelong's Chris Scott to Sydney's John Longmire. Now, here's where I get unpopular. While the airwaves fill with eulogies and highlight reels, we are missing the point. This isn't just sad, it's systemic. Australian football has a drug problem, and it's not the players' fault alone. It's the culture we built. Back in Ben's era, the 90s and noughties, the game was a pressure cooker. Train hard, play harder, party hardest. Cocaine was the footy player's secret handshake, a little pick-me-up after the grind. Remember the Essendon supplement saga? Or the Melbourne tanking whispers? Drugs were the unspoken performance enhancer, the crutch for the aches and the egos. Ben himself admitted in that Raw 2010 documentary, Such is Life, that the more drugs I took, the better I played. He wasn't boasting, he was confessing. And the league. They fined him, banned him, but did they fix the root? Nah. They buried it under NDAs and no-comment presses. Fast forward to today, and it's no better. The AFL's illicit drugs policy? It's a joke. Players get 3 strikes before the public even hears a whisper. Confidential testing, voluntary reporting. It's designed to protect the brand, not the bloke. How many times have we seen stars like Cousins, or Lance Franklin's quiet battles, or even Dustin Martin's well-documented partying, swept under the rug? And the clubs? West Coast knew Ben's struggles from day dot. They paraded him as the golden boy, signed the big contracts, but where was the mandatory counselling? The peer support networks that actually work? Instead, we glorify the comeback stories without addressing why they fell in the first place. Ben's radio gig. Brilliant, but the hit network copped flack in April for trying to set him up on a date, ignoring his DV history. 20 breaches of a restraining order, mates. That's not a footnote, that's a flashing red light. And us fans? We are complicit too. We chant "Cuzzy's a gun" at the pub, by the jerseys, stream the docos, but when the scandals hit, we clutch our pearls and blame the individual. Weak character, we say. Bad choices. Rubbish. Addiction isn't a choice. It's a disease, amplified by the isolation of fame. Ben grew up in a footy-mad family, but the spotlight turned his life into a circus. Divorced, estranged from some of his kids at times, hounded by paparazzi. Who wouldn't reach for an escape? In Australia, we love our larrikins, the boozy yarns, the aftermatch piss-ups, but when it tips into tragedy, we look away. Well, not here. Not on Unpopular Aussie Opinions. Think about the ripple effect. Ben's death comes hot on the heels of rising overdose stats across the nation. The Australian Institute of Health and Welfare reported last week that drug-induced deaths hit 2,300 in 2024, up 8% from the year before. In WA alone, methamphetamine-related fatalities jumped 15%. Footy players aren't immune. They're prime targets. The adrenaline crash after a big win, the scrutiny after a loss, it's a perfect storm. And for Indigenous stars like Adam Goodes or Michael Long, who face their own battles, the pressures compound with cultural disconnects. Ben wasn't Indigenous, but he played alongside enough who were to know the toll. His mate Mainwaring's death in 2007? A wake-up call ignored. Now, 18 years later, history repeats. So, what now? The AFL needs to overhaul that drugs policy, make testing transparent, strikes public from the first offence, and fund proper mental health hubs at every club. No more 3 strikes and you're out nonsense. It's 1 strike and we help. Clubs like the Eagles should lead with vulnerability, not victory laps. Share the stories, the relapses, the recoveries without the hero worship. And governments? Pump more into rehab beds and community programs. WA's got the cash from mining booms. Use it to save lives, not build another stadium. Fans, let's change our tune. Next time you're at the footy, instead of roaring for the goals, spare a thought for the Warriors off the field. Support the players holistically, petition for better welfare, call out the toxic masculinity that says toughen up, mate. Ben Cousins wasn't just a statistic. He was a son, a father to 4 beautiful kids, a brother who inspired a generation. His daughter, Alicia, posted this morning, "Dad, you taught me to fight. I'll keep fighting for you." That's the legacy we honour. As I wrap this up, I can't help but reflect on Ben's own words from that 2010 doco, "Such is life." Yeah, Benny, it is. But it doesn't have to be this way. His death is a tragedy, but if it sparks real change, tougher policies, open conversations, genuine support, then maybe, just maybe, we save the next kid from the same fate. Rest easy, Cuzzy. You were a giant. You still are. If this hit home, smash that like button, subscribe for more unfiltered takes on Aussie sport, and drop in the comments. What's your unpopular opinion on footy's drug crisis? Did the league fail Ben? Let's talk. Until next time, stay true, stay opinionated.